Well, hello everyone, and welcome to 2022. I do hope that this coming year is going to be kinder to us than the past couple have been, and that we will be able to spend more time together as families and communities. In the meantime, though, I've really enjoyed this community being here with you. So I've got a few recipes for you today. I have had lots of inquiries after I posted a budget-friendly recipe, and people said that they would be interested in more budget-friendly recipes. So I've got some for you. I'm just going to gather up a few more items and I will be right back. In order to bring you some budget recipes, I did a little homework. I know the kinds of things that I purchase from the grocery stores in order to keep our food budget down, and use different combinations of things each time to try to keep it down, but we're all aware of the rising prices everywhere. So I went online, I went to YouTube, and I looked at some other YouTube channels to see what their budget meals looked like. And that was when I found out what a huge difference there is in food costs between different areas. I live in a rural mountain town in British Columbia, Canada, and we enjoy the lifestyle that we have here with the great outdoors and the mountains and hiking and all the things that we love to do. But there's a price to be paid for making that choice to be here. And we've always had higher food costs than other places. But it wasn't until I started to compare that I realized how much higher they are. Now these are in Canadian dollars, and the ones that I looked at are in American dollars, but the difference is staggering, honestly. So one of the ladies that I looked at on YouTube, who does different combinations of budget meals, was putting together 3 meals for $10. And those meals included a chicken that she would put in the crock pot, and that from there she would make up 3 meals. And I'm going to follow along in a similar sort of fashion. I'm going to make some changes to some of the recipes, but I wanted to kind of follow along to give you an idea what the difference is. I'm not going to go through every ingredient and tell you what it cost me, but the primary thing that I'm going to tell you is that she used a whole roasting chicken as the base for her 3 recipes, and I am going to do the same thing. The difference in the price was that hers was under $4.50, and my roasting chicken is about 4 pounds. I measured it on the bathroom scale, so you know that's not always quite accurate, but 4 pounds, and it was $13. So that's the difference right off the bat. I could not compete with the kind of prices that she was able to find in the United States. So hers was $4.35 and mine was $13. That, as I said, it's a staggering difference. The other things that are involved, I'm going to try and keep them to the minimum, but I don't want to skimp on flavor. So I'm going to start off today with this chicken, and this is going to be the first meal, and then as I progress along, I'll pick up the camera again and I will bring you along with me so that you can see how I take this one chicken and turn it into 3 meals. Now we love a roast chicken on a Sunday afternoon, and today is Monday. It's not Sunday afternoon. I actually put it back in the fridge yesterday so that I had the time to do this properly today. So how we roast our chickens is we use oven bags, and this is the kind that I usually pick up, but I've also used these turkey bags. You can definitely just put them in a closed roasting pan and roast them that way, and they'll turn out fantastic. I like the roasting bags like this because I just put them in I don't add any water to them, and the juice that's left over inside the bag I can use then for gravy. None of it's evaporating, so I'm getting the entire amount of juice from the bird, what would you call it? I forget what the proper name of it is, but you get all of that juice left in the bag, and then you can use it for your gravy that you're going to have with tonight's meal, or you can use it to add to your chicken stock for the next set of recipes. So I'll show you how I go through this process. I'm just going to pop over and start my oven, and then I'll show you how the bag works. Okay, so I'm set. These look oven bags I could find at either of the grocery stores here where I live, so I'm sure you'll be able to find them in the cities. And they come with 2 bags in each one of these envelopes, and they come with 2 little twist ties, and you want to do these up really tight. So they're a cello bag, cellophane, I guess cello would work as calling that, and they're quite large. And I just take the chicken, the whole chicken, which I have patted dry, not adding anything to it at this point in time. Because it's going to roast in its own juices, it doesn't need anything. I've always found even that, although I'm a person who enjoys a lot of salt, you don't need to add salt or pepper or anything to this. And I would recommend that you try it without anything. If you're going to use a cooking bag, boy, this is noisy, I bet. If you're going to use a cooking bag, try it first without anything, and then, you know, use your imagination from there, and if you think that you need to add more to it, by all means. Now, I gather up the edge of the bag so that it's sideways like this. I know this is probably noisy, but I'll get it. And I just twist it until it becomes quite tight. And then I take the little twist tie, and it's like a little zipper tie, so you just put the small end through, and you pull on it firmly until you can get it on there as firm as it will go. Make sure that it's hooked, and then you can let it go, which allows space in there. And then I flip up the bag a little bit because I find that this will get beautifully roasted with a nice golden brown skin if you leave it a little bit of room underneath the bag. I've just got my old beat up open roaster, and I've got a wire rack in it that holds everything up off the bottom. And then I tuck this edge, I tuck it underneath the bird, and I set it on the roaster, and then I just place it in a 375 degree oven. You can do it at 350 depending on how much time you have, because slow and slow is always nice. But today I'm going to set it at 375 degrees, and I will show you the result as soon as it's ready, and how I deal with the bag, because that's kind of important if you haven't done that before. So, well, here I am. I have the chicken all roasted up, and I've just taken it out of the oven, and it is hot and beautiful and crisp. I'm not sure. No, it's too hot for me to pick up yet, but there is a lovely amount of juice in the bottom of this bag, and I'm going to preserve it to make some gravy with. So tonight we're going to have some of this chicken with potatoes and broccoli and a bit of gravy. And I will show you what that looks like when I get to that stage. I really wish I could pick this bag up to show you all the delicious juice inside though. I don't know if that's really helping, but yeah, using the bag you really preserve the juice of the meat. And then I'll take a picture for you when I open up the bag. Maybe I'll do that right now, because I've started the potatoes and I want the meat to rest a little. So I'll grab a pair of scissors and open up the top of the bag just to give you a little peek inside. Now you want to be careful at this point because the steam is very hot in there. And these bags do such a great job. And there's that little beauty right there. I will just bring the camera around so you can see it. See how beautiful and brown it gets? Looking forward to dinner tonight. Well, dinner's over, and a delicious dinner it was too. And I've just got the dishes cleaned up, so I'm going to go to work on part 2 of the steps to stretch this chicken out. So in my Instant Pot sleeve, I've put the bones of the chicken. And really I made sure that I cleaned the fat away and all the skin. And I'm just going to be making some really enriched flavored stock. So I am going to just roughly chop up an onion, about a medium-sized onion, and throw it in the pot. And I have one really large carrot. I'm just going to cut it into a few chunks, like that. And I have 2 stalks of celery. They're not very big. I've washed them and cleaned them. And I'm just going to cut them maybe into quarters and into the pot. And I'm going to add a bay leaf in there. And also going to add some chicken broth, because the broth, the juice that I took off the chicken, I made a gravy with. So I used it all up there. So I'm going to use this 30% less sodium chicken broth. And I'm going to put in a quart, 1 liter for my Canadian people. And I'm going to make sure that everything gets covered, but I'm also going to add some water to this. And this is where the enriching part comes in. I'm going to add a couple of packets of Knorr's OXO, but you could use any chicken powder that you like, or that other one that comes in the jar, Better Than Chicken Bouillon. You could use some of that as well. So I am going to dump those 2 packets in, and then I'm going to fill my sleeve to the max line. And I just have a small Instant Pot, which, you know, for most meals for us works for 2 people. And there, I have it up to the line. So now I'm just going to pop it into my Instant Pot, and I'm going to set it on high pressure, and I'm going to set it for 45 minutes. And that should give me a really rich broth for part 2. So I won't be finishing this tonight. As soon as the pot cools enough, after I've released the pressure from the pot, then I'll be putting a lid on this and putting it into the fridge. Or maybe into the snowbank, because there's lots of snow here. In the last 24 hours, I think we've gotten about a foot. And so I could easily put it outside and keep it cold out there. But it's going into the fridge tonight. So I'm just going to do that, and then I will meet you back here tomorrow when I'm ready for the next meal. Well, hello, I'm back again for meal number 2, and then in a bit after that, meal number 3. But I'm kind of working through things as I go, and I am going to get prepping for meal number 3 while I'm still working on meal number 2. Because in meal number 3, I'm going to make a rice dish, a fried rice, and I would like to have my rice cooked ahead of time. So in my classic white dish, I have put in there 2 cups of the reserved juice. So I took the sleeve out of the fridge this morning, the sleeve for my Instant Pot, and I put a strainer over top of this pot, and I dumped the contents into there so that I could get rid of the after of, you know, the bits that are left after. So I had put into the Instant Pot the rib cage from the chicken, as well as a medium-sized onion, just chopped roughly, 2 stalks of celery, and 1 large carrot, and I just chopped them into chunks and put in a bay leaf and put it in the Instant Pot for 45 minutes on high pressure, and then I allowed it to cool to room temperature, and I put the sleeve from the Instant Pot into the fridge for overnight. And when I brought it out this morning and tasted it, it was just fantastic. So it made enough juice in here that I was able to divide it up for 2 meals. So I have enough in here. I'm cooking for 2 people. I have enough in this pot. There's probably, I'm gonna say 4 cups or maybe a little more in there. And so I had about 6 or 7 cups of stock this morning that I got out of my Instant Pot. And I took 2 cups of it and I put it into this white bowl, and to that I added half a cup of juice that I got from a jar of my home canned tomatoes. So I'm going to use these in that recipe later as well, the tomato parts there. So now I am going to take the rice, and I don't know if everybody does this, but this is a shortcut my mom taught me many years ago. I'm going to take my rice and I'm just going to dump it into this container. I'm going to give it a quick stir just to make sure everything is well mixed. I'm using basmati rice, but you could use any long grain rice. And now I'm going to just cover it with a piece of poly wrap, just to make sure it keeps its heat inside. And make sure it's completely covered. And I'm going to pop this in the microwave. Yes, the microwave on high, on the high setting for 18 minutes. And once it's finished, I'll take it out and fluff it up with a fork. And then it'll cool and be ready for the next dish. I didn't think about it, but now you're going to hear the microwave running in the background the entire time. But I'm trying to get all this cooked up, so I hope that's not too distracting. So to carry on with my soup, I'm going to make chicken soup with the stock that's left in here, and I divided the leftover chicken up, so I have a cup of chicken bits here, and I also have a cup and a half reserved for the dinner meal. This soup is going to be hearty enough, it could be a dinner meal as well, but this is what I'm going to do with it. So in a pan on the stove, I have about a tablespoon of olive oil, and I'm going to bring it up to medium-high heat. And I have chopped on my old board 1 small medium-ish onion, 1 large carrot, and 2 ribs of celery. And I'm just going to fry these until they become tender, so it won't take too long. I'm going to do that in the frying pan, because when we're trying to stretch things to make them go longer, but we don't want to lose the flavor, we have to be mindful at every step that we need to add flavor into this. So there's plenty of flavor in this soup stock, but I'm going to add to it to make it even more delicious. So I'm going to get these things sweating off in the frying pan, and once we're ready, I will be back to move on. The key also to making delicious meals that have a base like this roasted chicken had, it was our protein and our center point in here, is to make sure that all 3 of the dishes don't taste exactly the same, because you would get bored if you had to repeat the same food just cooked in different ways. So I'm trying to add different flavors as I go along, so that not everything tastes like a roast chicken as we started off with. I hope that makes sense. So I have the vegetables sweated down here, and I'm just going to move the pot with the chicken stock onto the burner, and I am going to dump in the vegetables into this pot. And then I am going to add to this pot the chicken, and I went back and thought about my chicken choice. I decided that if I was going to make fried rice, I always use a couple scrambled eggs in my, or I scramble a couple of eggs into my fried rice, so I could put the protein into the soup, more of it, than I had originally planned for. So made that adjustment along the way. And I'm just going to give this a good stir. And at this stage, there's just a couple more things I'm going to add. I dried some parsley from my garden with my dehydrator. So I'm going to add some dried parsley to this at this point because I want it to rehydrate, of course, and be in the soup. And I am going to use my little rasp, and I'm going to rasp in a clove of garlic. And then I'm going to let this all come together, and I'm going to boil it for 10 minutes. Turn the heat up, boil it for 10 minutes, and then I'll show you what's next. Here it is, bubbling away, and I used my teaspoon and I sipped it to make sure that it's where I want it to be. I will add maybe just a touch of salt and some black pepper, but not much. You can see that it's already pretty thick, and at this point you have a ton of decisions you could make. You could add rice to this dish and let it cook a bit longer and until the rice was cooked, or you could use leftover rice in it. You could add potatoes to it. You could take broken pieces of spaghetti or macaroni even and add to it. But today I'm going to make this into a chicken vegetable soup. So I've got a bag of frozen vegetables, and this is one of those fiber ones, so it has broccoli and fava beans or edamame. It has a little bit of barley, some corn, and some peppers in it. And I'm just going to add about half that bag. Give it a stir, see what it looks like. And it looks to me like that's going to be a really thick soup. And I am pleased with it. So now I'm going to let this cook, of course, because the vegetables were frozen. They need some time to thaw, and I want their juices to get into the mix as well. And then I will test it again for seasonings, and then I'll bring you back to show you the final product. Well, as you can see, this turned out beautifully. It's got really, really exceptional flavor, and there's big chunks of chicken in it and tons of vegetables. And as I said, you could really add any kind of a starch you wanted to this if you thought it was necessary. I don't think that it's necessary, but you certainly could. And in no way does this feel like a budget meal, although it probably is as cheap as anything that you're going to be able to come up with. So I hope that this dip, and I also should say while I'm standing here, that from that original chicken, not only did I get a roast chicken dinner, but I also got a chicken sandwich for my husband for his lunch. And then this is actually then would be meal number 3. And then I will move on this evening to meal number 4, which will be chicken fried rice. And so I'm pretty happy that my $13 chicken, I was able to make it go so far. It was a 4-pound chicken, so that's helpful. Well, here I am, dish number 3 of this set of recipes that I challenged myself to do for you. And I've changed my mind about the flavors in this dish a number of times, but suffices to say that I have chicken from the original chicken that I roasted, and that's going to be included in this dish. So I'm going to make my version of a Mediterranean rice, and we'll I don't know if anybody else makes it this way, but this is the way I'm going to make it today. So I'm going to start off with 1 small onion diced, and I'm going to sweat that a little bit before I add in 2 cloves of garlic. Now, also into this dish to help make it Mediterranean, I'm going to add some olives. So I'm going to chop them a bit. This is a pantry item, I guess. I always have olives in my fridge. I do like some Mediterranean flavors. My husband is, I guess he's half Italian, so we're used to having olives in the house, and I love olives, so it works okay for me. I'm just going to chop these up. And until I get them not super fine, but fine enough. A rough chop, I guess you'd call that. They are just about done. Now I'm going to use the remainder of my jar of canned tomatoes in this dish, but I thought it might be good to have some fresh flavor in there. So I'm going to chop maybe 2 small handfuls of these little tomatoes because I had them in the fridge. This is one of those recipes that will really work for cleaning out the fridge. So I can see that I'm at a point where I can add the garlic. I'll come back and finish chopping up my tomatoes. Try not to chop my fingers off at the same time. I sure appreciate all your comments from when I post. I had one lady who said that while I was talking to the camera and chopping with my knife, she kept catching her breath because she was certain I was going to chop my finger off. And I'm here to tell you that I have cut myself while gawking at the camera, but not today. Let's get through it today. So now I'm going to move you over to the stove with me so you can see how this goes. So you can see the onions are well sweated and the garlic is doing good in there as well. I can smell it. It's just bloomed up really nice. I've also got onions all over the stove, it looks like. Now I'm going to add in that rice that I had cooked a while ago in the microwave. And you can see probably that it came out just perfectly, as it always does. I hope that you won't be afraid to try that out because it works really well. I'm going to give that a stir. Just going to switch this handle around so I can get a better hold of it. And hope you can still see what I'm doing. Now this rice I cooked in 2 cups of the chicken stock and a half a cup of drained tomato from a jar of my home canned tomatoes, which is, it's a pint, so 2 cups. Now if I feel like it's looking a little dry, I will add a little bit of olive oil to it. Now I want to get this hot through again. So I'm going to turn up the stove, and then I'm going to add the chicken. So here's the chicken that I had reserved back. I was going to just make a fried rice and add scrambled eggs to it, but I decided against that and went with the Mediterranean instead. Now, if you didn't cook your rice with the tomato, or you didn't have tomatoes to add to it, you could also start off with 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and rehydrate that with water, and that would give you some strong flavor as well. Here's the rest of that jar of tomatoes. I'm just going to put them in at this point. Now these tomatoes are whole ones that we canned from our garden. Well, I guess they're not whole. I quartered them or something to make them work. And I'm just going to give them a good stir around so that everything gets touched by a tomato. There's so much versatility in a chicken. Now, I'm not saying that you even have to roast the chicken yourself. Any of these dishes would work with a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store. And one of the things that I have found is that often the rotisserie chicken is a better value than buying a whole chicken yourself and then having to cook it. So keep that in mind. I think the rotisserie chickens at the grocery store the day I bought this one to roast, I think the chickens were $9.99, and this chicken that I bought raw and had to cook was almost $13. So, no, it was $13. So, yeah, sometimes you can save yourself some time just by picking up a rotisserie chicken. But we used to find that we would get a rotisserie chicken and then we only cooked about half of it, or we only ate about half of it and put it in the fridge. And then, you know, it's one of those things you intend to do something with, and then pretty soon it's been in the fridge too long to do anything with, except maybe, you know, get food poisoning. So let's not do that. Now, you can see this is not the least bit wet, which is great. And now into here, I'm going to add I'm actually going to remove this from the heat now. So I'm going to add to this now my olives, my tomatoes. I'm going to add the zest of a half a lemon, and I'm going to give that a big stir. Now you could also add, if you like heat to this, you could have added, you know, some chili pepper along the way, or some chili flakes. My husband is not a fan of anything spicy, so I won't do that today because this is what's for dinner tonight. There you go. And I'm going to just take it over to the counter now. Now to finish off this Mediterranean rice, I'm just going to take the juice of a half a lemon, just to help pump up that lemony flavor in there. And I'm going to add about half a cup of feta cheese. Now, if you don't like feta, you could completely skip this step altogether. You could make it a little more Italian by adding Parmesan instead of feta. But that's what I'm adding today. And I think this looks like a plenty robust dish. I'll plate it up and show you what it looks like. And there we are. This actually makes enough for 4 people. So you can really stretch this dish a long ways. You can totally do far different things with your rice than what I've done here. But this is just 1 cup of chicken in this dish, as well as 1 cup of rice. So it's I feel like it's not the end of the world to add some pantry items to it and to add, you know, a little, maybe more glamorous things to it. We're still working on that one chicken. So I'm pretty pleased with how this little food experiment turned out. I started off with a $13 chicken, and from that chicken I was able to make a beautiful roast chicken dinner for 2 people, a lovely chicken sandwich for my husband's lunch, a really thick vegetable chicken soup for our lunch today, and definitely enough there for 2 people. And now with a side salad, this makes enough for 4 people, so leftovers for lunches tomorrow. So really, this probably is going to stretch us to 5 meals from this one chicken. I think that's a really good value for my money. So I hope that you have enjoyed this, and that if you have, you will like it and consider subscribing to the channel, and definitely share it with your friends, because that would really help me out a lot. I hope this gets you started off to a great start for the new year, and gives you lots of ideas about how you can make your grocery budget stretch further than you ever thought possible. Until next time, folks, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.